Hello and welcome to another video, and I'm in New Hampshire, baby. I'm staying at this sick little cottage type thing on a lake, aka that one. Now there are like bizarre creatures all around me. There's like a massive bullfrog down there somewhere, and there's some kind of, I don't know, strange like sounding bird thing, I assume, up in a tree there. So if this video is interrupted by like weird noises, then I apologise, but what are you going to do? Like, call the friggin' wildlife police, yeah? Anyway, in today's video, I'm going to be explaining how you can lose fat and get shredded whilst eating more food using a technique called reverse dieting. Now, rather than just talk to you about this, I thought I'd give you an actual physical video-based example of it. So here is me reverse dieting earlier on this morning. Jokes, but reverse dieting is a thing, and although it isn't backed up by a huge amount of research, it's been proven to work on numerous occasions by thousands of people. I've actually used it myself on, I think, 25 clients now, and it's been effective in pretty much every case. So if you're excited to find out how you can eat more food and lose fat at the same time, then drop this video a like, subscribe to the channel if you haven't already, and let's go. Okay, we're in. So reverse dieting, what is it and how does it work? Now, reverse dieting essentially entails increasing your calorie intake, so increasing how much food you're eating over a long period of time, but crucially whilst you're doing this, you are not gaining fat, or if you do, it's a pretty insignificant amount of fat. Now, I know what you're thinking, this sounds too good to be true, but it is an actual thing, and I've seen it work firsthand on a number of occasions myself. Now, to give you an example or proof as such, obviously it's not real proof because it's just me talking to you, you're gonna have to take my word for it, but to give you an example of this working, I have a client I've been coaching for the last kind of almost year now. Now when he came to me, he was 27 years old, he was eating about 1,400 calories. He's been tracking his calories religiously for quite a long period of time, dieting for a reasonably long period of time, and yeah, he got to the point where he was eating about 1,400 calories a day, and his body weight was around 89 kilograms. Now, initially I said, obviously, you're already eating such a low number of calories, like we can't decrease that from there. I'm not happy to, you know, set you a target of say 13 or 1,200 calories a day, because as an adult male, that's a ridiculous amount of calories to eat. So basically we set about increasing his calories over a long period of time. Now, over the course of just over 5 months, we increased his calorie intake to the point where he was eating 2,400 calories, so that's an increase of 1,000 calories, and his body weight had stabilized at about 90.2 kilograms. So basically, he'd gained just over 1 kilo, so like what, 2.5 pounds over the space of 5 months, so pretty much nothing. And bear in mind, he was training heavy at the same time, so he probably put on some muscle mass, and he was eating 1,000 calories more. Now, the beauty of that is that he's now in a position where if he wants to cut down, he can do so without eating a ridiculously low number of calories. Sick. If you're wondering why it looks like it's been raining loads, it's because it has. It went from like glorious sunshine to hammering down with rain in the space of like 1 second, so I had to grab my camera, run inside all the time, screaming like a 7-year-old girl, but it seems to have calmed down now. We're back outside. Back in the video, let's continue. So the plan is I'm going to split this video up into 3 parts to make it a bit easier to digest. The first part is going to be how you do it, so how do you physically reverse diet. The second part is going to be when do you do it, so when would it be an appropriate time for you to implement a reverse diet into your own life. And the third part is going to be the potential pitfalls, the risks, what things could go wrong whilst running a reverse diet. Okay, so part 1, how do you reverse diet? How is it done? So essentially, like I said at the start, you are adding calories to your calorie consumption over a long period of time. Now, it's key before I say this that you are tracking your calories. If you don't track your calories, it's pretty much impossible to run a reverse diet, because we're talking about very small increments here in order for this to be effective. Now, when I say small increments, I'm talking about 50 to 100 calories being added to your daily calorie intake over a period of time. Now, I've done this, like I said at the start, with 25 clients, and I found by far the most effective range as far as a calorie increase goes is in that 50 to 100 calorie range. Now, that's going to depend on how many calories you're consuming. If you're consuming, say, 3,000 calories, then firstly, I'd question why you're reverse dieting, but in that instance, you're going to want to look more towards 100 calories a day. If you're only eating, say, 1,500 calories a day, then maybe 50 calories a day is going to be more suitable for you. And what you're going to do is every week to 2 weeks, depending on how many calories you're on at the moment, you're going to add that increment. So let's say, let's use my example, okay? The guy I was coaching, eating 1,400 calories a day. We added 50 calories a day for the first, I think it was the first 10 days, okay? So for the first 10 days, I increased his calorie intake to 1,450 calories, right? After that 10 days, we then went up to 1,500 calories. That lasted for about a week. We went up again, so 1,550, and we simply kept going. Now, like I said, it altered between, say, say a week at the shortest to maybe like 2 weeks at the longest, a period of time where you'd keep those calories consistent before then making another jump. Now, a couple of times during that 5-month period, we took some kind of small diet breaks, so I gave him a few days where he could eat a little bit more and not stress out about it so much, because it is very taxing, like psychologically, having to track your calories to that extent, because like I said at the start, it needs to be consistent. You cannot afford to be kind of laid back with it, because we're only increasing your calories by 50 calories a day. If you are not tracking them accurately, it's not going to work. But yeah, basically you increase your calorie intake by 50 to 100 calories a day. You do that every week or so for a long period of time. Now this can range from anywhere from say 3, 4, 5 months up to even like a year, depending on kind of how much resilience you have, I guess, and how low your calories are initially. Plus there's more factors, but I'll talk about that a little bit later on. But yeah, every week or so you add those calories to your day. It's important you don't add too much of a jump. Like I said, no more than 100 calories, because that's going to result in, you know, fat gain. And what you'll find is a few months down the line, you are eating significantly more calories, and although you may have gained a small amount of fat, it's going to be negligible, and you're going to be in a much stronger position from there to then decide where you want to go with your diet. Now, the reason this works is that your metabolism is very adaptive. Now, it varies from person to person, but your metabolism over time will adapt to the number of calories you eat. That's basically like for survival. Your body's always trying to seek an equilibrium, trying to kind of run in the most efficient manner possible. And so if you cut the number of calories you consume over a period of time, your body, your metabolism will adapt to that, and that will become your baseline. Conversely, if you increase your calories over a period of time, again, your body, your metabolism is going to adapt to that, and again, that's going to become your baseline. So basically what happens is that if you're losing weight, you may lose it quite quickly initially. Over time, that's going to level out, and the same for gaining weight. You may gain weight by increasing your calories quite quickly initially, but again, over time, that's going to level out, and that is because your metabolism has adapted to that new number of calories. Okay, part 2, when should you reverse diet? When is it going to be appropriate to implement this into your lifestyle? Now, there are 2 main instances where I found it's useful to run a reverse diet, and the research I've read kind of indicates that as well. The first one being if your calories are so low that you're finding it hard to lose weight. Now, this is very, very common. I've had a number of clients, probably approaching half of the clients I've ever coached have been in this boat, where they've been dieting for such a long period of time, and they've done it so drastically that their metabolism has now adapted to a really, really low number of calories. Say, like I said in that guy's instance, 1,400 calories, which for an adult male is very low. And so you want to increase the amount of calories you consume to make dieting easier, because quite simply, if you're trying to diet and you're only eating 1,400 calories as it is, like, you haven't got any margin for the area. You haven't really got any leeway. You can't drop those calories any lower, because it's simply not going to be sustainable. Now, the second instance where a reverse diet can be really useful is if you are a bodybuilder or someone who's been deliberately and for a prolonged period of time cutting their body weight, cutting body fat for like a day. So let's say it's like for a competition, you've been leading up to a bodybuilding show, you've been reducing your weight, reducing your body fat over a long period of time, you've been gradually cutting your calories, you then finish your show, you're done, so the reason you had for losing body fat is now over, and you're looking to return to like normal life. What's going to happen in most cases is that because you've been suppressing your hunger, your appetite, the amount of calories you've been consuming for a long period of time, you're going to go nuts, you're going to rebound, and you're going to eat loads of food and get really fat. So a reverse diet in that instance can be really useful, because what it does is it gradually increases the number of calories you're eating over a long period of time, so that you never go berserk and you never put on all of that fat. It's kind of done in a more controlled manner. The only downside to this is that obviously in most cases, because you've been restricting your calories for so long, it's almost like prolonging that, you know, that horrible experience. Like, ultimately dieting isn't very nice, and so if you've been doing it for a long period of time, then finishing your show, whatever it is, and then jumping on a reverse diet isn't going to be very nice, because, you know, it's not liberating. You're still having to track your calories, and even though you're increasing them, it's happening really slowly. So it may not always be the most effective means of dealing with that circumstance. And part 3, the risks or the reason why a reverse diet may not work. Now, the first one is going to be consistency. Now, I said at the start, if you are not consistent, if you are not tracking your calories very, very accurately, it's simply not going to work, because we're talking about such fine margins. Now, what happens, and what's happened to a couple of my clients in the past, is that they've either got a little bit lax with it, so they've started kind of eyeballing food rather than tracking it precisely, rather than weighing their food. And that is the kind of thing we're talking about. You do need to be weighing your food. It needs to be super, super accurate, because like I said, if you're talking about a 50 calorie increase, if you assume something is 300 calories and it's actually like 330, that's going to throw you off. But yeah, they've either either been lax or they simply haven't been consistent. So they've been doing it reverse dieting for say 3 weeks, then they have a few days off, then they go again for a week, have a couple of days off. If you're doing that, if you're not hitting those numbers that you've been set consistently, then those small incremental changes simply aren't going to work. And the second instance where it won't work, or maybe it's going to take longer to work, is if you have a long history, a long track record of dieting in the past. So if you've been dieting for a long period of time, so we're talking like, you know, a period of years, then your body's going to be far more sensitive to kind of smaller calorie jumps. So what you may find is, whereas someone who hasn't got a big history, a big track record of dieting can add 50 calories to their intake a day and not really make that much of a difference, if you've been dieting for a long period of time, adding 50 calories to your intake each day may make, you know, a reasonably significant difference. Now, it's not a disaster. All that means, if you have been dieting for a long period of time, is that you're going to have to be a lot more patient with it, because it's probably going to take longer. And the same is true for someone who's eating a low number of calories as it is. Like I said again at the start, the lower the number of calories you are consuming, the smaller margin for error you have and the smaller jumps you can make. And that is that. I think it's quite a short video, although I'm really bad at gauging the lengths of my videos, but I thought it would be good, like a nice concise guide to reverse dieting, because I feel like it's quite a prevalent topic at the moment, particularly for me. I've been getting so many emails and so many clients who have ultimately ended up reverse dieting, having to reverse diet because of their circumstances, that I think it would be a good thing to kind of refer back to. I think a lot of people kind of experience a sense of like desperation where their calories are so low and they're not losing weight and they can't see any light at the end of the tunnel. Like, just know that there is a way out. It's just going to require, like I said, a lot of patience and a lot of consistency on your part. So yeah, I'm going to wind it up here, guys, because I'm a sweaty mess and the lake behind me is calling my name. So I sincerely hope you enjoyed it. If you have enjoyed it, please give it a thumbs up. Like I said at the start, subscribe to the channel if you haven't already, and I will see you tomorrow. Woo! I got my t-shirt on.